I'm well aware that this might be the greasiest you've ever seen me on camera. There is a good explanation for it. Yesterday, well, no, 2 days ago, my water broke, so I don't mean like pregnancy-related water breaking or anything, I mean like the actual water to my house broke, and it's been all cattywampus ever since. Thus, behold, this filthy homunculus. I look like some kind of cryptid that would hide crack under your mattress in a hotel. Anyway, though, I want to talk about a huge flop that just dropped today. 2024 has been filled to the brim with flopperooskies. We just saw Borderlands' shameful display in the box office, making roughly $18.5 million as of a couple days ago against its $115 million budget. That is a box office catastrophe. That is like an Armageddon for the budget. Like, that doesn't even account for all of the marketing spend, I imagine. It's crazy how horrible that had performed, because it's a terrible movie, no doubt. And today we got a disaster in the video game realm with a flop called Concord. That name probably doesn't ring any bells because all of you have forgotten about it, I imagine. It is a generic hero shooter. I made a video on it like a month and a half ago, and it's a game that the entire gaming community just kind of rolled their eyes at. It's this amalgamation of all of the worst parts of every hero shooter that's come before it, but set to 0.5 times speed. Everything in the game is abominably slow. Oh, I don't have a shit. Holy. This might actually be the slowest movement I've ever seen in my life. It's like I'm on a treadmill. Oh my god. What's my Q?
Generator's hot. On me.
Don't know what that is. What's my... That's my shield. Need healing. Hold on. Give me 45 minutes. I'm flanking. Oh my god, the reload. That's tragic. Oh, I can't even play the Okay. You have to switch characters after each round that you win. That sucks. I thought it was only if you were doing like really well. Can you never play a character again that you went around with? They're locked out for the rest of the game. So you win around and whatever character you won the round with, you can't play again for the rest of the match. It's like you're playing a Zack Snyder film where everything is in this nauseating, perpetual, slow motion, hypnotic state. It's just not very fun. But it's also not unplayable or awful. Like, it's not good by any means. The worst part about it is just how generic it is. It's a game that nobody wants, and if anyone likes this kind of game, there's 50 other games that just do it better than Concord. And what's exceptionally delusional about Concord in particular is that it's a $40 game. It doesn't even have the common courtesy to be free to play like every other multiplayer shooter on the market. So this game was dead on arrival without even arriving a month and a half ago, because that was the beta, the playtest. Now that it's here, it has come, and let me tell you, no one's there to swallow it. It didn't even break 700 players on Steam. But yeah, anyway, Concord just barely over 650 players at launch. That's less than some bingo halls get with like 80-year-old octogenarians going in there and playing bingo. It's not exactly, you know, a great launch experience for Concord. To put that number in perspective, I compared it to the biggest flops in the gaming industry I could think of over the last couple years. Concord has less players than Redfall, for crying out loud. Heavens to Betsy. And it actually has less peak players than Babylon's fucking Fall. Babylon's Fall is a game I think most of you have scrubbed from your memory, but this was at the time, and I'm actually having a Porky Pig meltdown right now because this is so shocking. Babylon's Fall was at the time a historic blunder, a crazy one. Babylon's Fall was so bad and so embarrassing they actually pulled the game from Steam, and yet that had more peak players than Concord does. Concord just barely has a higher peak than Lord of the Rings Gollum, another game so floppy that the studio also got shut down for making it in the first place. Also, a couple articles report that Lord of the Rings Gollum actually did have more peak player count than Concord currently does. But according to Steam charts, Concord just barely squeaks out the W over Lord of the Rings Gollum. That's a full-blown flopperoo right there. This is a big budget game from PlayStation. This, no doubt, cost millions upon millions of dollars and a long time baking in the oven, and no one is here at the table waiting to be served this dish. I don't know how these games even get made, because from the very first trailer, when it became clear that it's a hero shooter, which is an unbelievably oversaturated market, everybody let out a collective sigh. I don't know who this game is for. I don't know who the target audience is, because even hero shooter enthusiasts, or even just multiplayer shooter enthusiasts, aren't going to choose this game to call home. They're not going to be climbing over each other, tearing at each other's flesh, trying to get a piece of that Concord action, because it's $40. And every other game in this genre is free, save for a couple of exceptions. It's a watered down version of free games that exist right now, so who the fuck would be lining up to fork over 40 clams for this? Your $40 is better spent paying someone to give you a swirly in a public toilet. This is the most predictable flop I've ever seen. There's no dimension in the multiverse where this title is successful, and everybody knew it, except for the suits, I suppose. I don't even know how this got greenlit in the first place. Again, everything about it was just doomed to failure. And now, here it is, failing. I don't know if it's like a desperation thing where they had already developed for, so many years and spent X amount of money on this project, and they just felt obligated to release it come hell or high water to try and recoup some of that investment. That's probably the case because, 600 people paying $40 for the game is better than 0, I suppose. But you know what's better than just recouping some of your investment? Not investing in turbo ass in the first place. Again, I don't even get how this project ever even made it to a launch. This should have just been an idea that people laughed at the meeting and said, yeah, imagine if we actually wasted time and money doing that and then moved on to a better project. It's such a shame because no doubt there's talented developers that worked on this, not because they wanted to, but because that's the project they were given. All the time and resources went into what they believed would be just an easy layup of just another hero shooter because it's a popular genre, not realizing that nobody wants more hero shooters, especially not ones with $40 price tag, to enter and play. It's just so simple and so avoidable. I had to talk about it though because it's a flop that's hard not to laugh at. I think it's important to mention that the game is sitting at mostly positive reviews at the moment, so the community that's playing it, however small it is, does seem to be enjoying it. And I gotta be honest, I don't really understand why. If this game was free, I'd totally get it. This is just an alternative to other games that are out there that maybe you're growing tired of, maybe it's getting stale. But it's $40 and you're just getting a worse version of those games. There is not a single thing that Concord does that no other game does, and everything that it does okay, other games do well. So I just don't really understand why there's anyone speaking so highly of it. If it was free, again, I would totally get it, but it's not. You're paying $40 and you're getting something worse than things that are free. I know I keep repeating that, but it just boggles my mind. So I just wanted to talk about it a little bit because this is a very impressive flop. You don't usually see games open, big budget games, open to under 1,000 players, especially not a game that has this much money going into it and this much, meat behind it. Usually, even the biggest flops that you've heard about, like fucking Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, that had 13.1 thousand players on launch, and that game lost the company a reported $100 million or more. So this is pretty rare to see a game flop to this degree. So I want to talk about it. That's really about it. So yeah. Joker 2 is a bad movie. I'd even go as far as saying it's a horrible film. But I didn't expect it to flop nearly as hard as it currently is. This is pathetic, the numbers it's putting up in the box office right now. This is the Concord of movies. The studio stands to lose roughly $150 million based on the estimates right now if the projections keep being followed. It is disastrous. I thought no matter how terrible this film was, it would still do well in the box office because it had such a large fan base that I thought would go see it no matter what, just to give it a chance. Nope, that wasn't the case at all. If you needed to escape from authorities and needed a place to lay low, buy a ticket to Joker 2. No one would ever check that auditorium. No one is going there. Those theaters are more empty than the room Squidward goes to be all alone in the void. It's bad. Also, I make that reference with Squidward a lot. That's just something that's always in my noodle. That's probably still one of my favorite scenes in SpongeBob. But anyway, right now, Joker 2 has opened to a $37.8 million box office domestically, which is actually lower than Morbius. What great company to have right there. It has done worse than Morbius so far. Now, globally, Joker 2 has brought in about $114 million, which isn't the smash success they were expecting it to be. That number sounds very high, but with the amount of money they put into it, it's still not doing well at all. And in the domestic box office, it's horrific. They're starting to realize Joker 2 isn't a tragedy, it's a fucking comedy. Everyone is pointing and laughing at this thing. It super sucks. But not only that, Joker 2 Folie à Deux PU, this is the poop that just keeps on stinking, because not only is its box office performance lackluster, it has the lowest cinema score out of any comic book movie ever, at a D. Now, I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke up your butthole pretending that I know everything there is to know about cinema score. This is actually really like one of the few times I've heard of it, so I'm not the most familiar with it, but it's been around for a while and it is a consistent score that pulls moviegoers after seeing a movie just to kind of gauge reactions, and then they assign a grade to it. And prior to Joker 2, the record holder for lowest cinema score for a comic book movie was Fantastic Four from 2015, which had a C-. That movie is still, to date, one of the most hated comic book movies of all time. And now Joker 2 is below that. That's mind-boggling. And they also put it in another perspective here. Borderlands, which I believe is the worst movie of this year, by far, I think it is significantly worse than Joker 2, actually has a D+, meaning that it has a higher score than Joker 2. And Madam Web, which I believe is one of the worst comic book movies of all time, has a C+, so significantly higher than Joker 2. Initially, I just assumed that all cinema scores would skew on the very low side of things, because when people go see a movie that's bad, like a Madam Web, like a Fantastic Four, like a Joker 2, their initial reaction is obviously going to be anger, like, I wasted money on this is absolute dog shit, thus the cinema scores would always be low. But when I saw Madam Web had a C+, I realized that just wasn't really the case. There are people that go see these objectively dog shit films, and they just have dog shit taste that aligns with it, so they liked it. So Madam Web having a C+, it's not always just going to be the most outraged of people every time. Joker 2 is so universally hated by critics and audience alike that even just gauging moviegoers' experiences, you're getting mostly negative without very many positives. So this movie failed on everything it tried to do. I think one of the main contributing factors for everyone's disgust with the film is how a lot of people went into this not even knowing it was a musical. I knew that going into it because it had been talked about prior, but if you only went in based on the trailers and based on how much you liked the first one, you would be caught completely off guard by this being a fucking musical. The trailers try their best to hide that. There's little hints that there might be some kind of music scene, but there is nothing in the trailers that would have you going into this thinking that you're getting a full-blown fucking Red Alert musical. So a lot of people felt really misled by that, and I imagine that contributed heavily to how much they hated it. Now, I don't agree that Joker 2 Folie à Deux is the worst comic book movie ever. I think that is an absurd claim. There are significantly worse comic book movies, and it is definitely not worse than Borderlands, but I do agree that Joker 2 is the most disappointing movie, most disappointing comic book movie. It is shocking how you'd follow up a movie that was so well regarded, Joker, with this sequel that seemed to really hate the first film. This movie kind of went out on this vendetta to try and undo everything of the first film, and it just sucks. And even if it didn't have that grudge against the first movie and its success, this film on its own two legs is also trash. It's a terrible plot. It's a really messy clusterfuck of a narrative. Nothing really works here. The movie ends in the exact same spot that it begins, with pretty much nothing changing and an abrupt death. It is the least satisfying film ever that has nothing redeeming about it, really. Aside from some good performances, And I guess if you really like musicals, there's a couple of songs in there that are just good songs, but even the musicals are lackluster because they don't really tie into the story. It's just unsuccessful with everything that it did, and it did not do much in the first place. I was talking with a buddy of mine about how shit Joker 2 was, and we were just kind of spitballing like what made it so bad and how it even got to that point. And then later he sent me this post from Culture Crave that kind of gives bullet points on how this catastrophe came into existence. So I've heard some of these, but some of them were brand new information. So apparently the idea came to Joaquin Phoenix in a dream. And there's multiple sources that corroborate that little nugget of lunacy. It turns out that it was Phoenix who came up with the idea for the sequel, which came to him in a dream. And he and Phillips brought this idea to former Warner Bros. Chairman Toby Emmerich, according to sources. After one insider was asked who the movie was made for, they responded with 2 words: for Joaquin. That is so silly. I hear that a lot, actually, though. That's a pretty common cliche where if people are asked about something like, how did this come to be? Some people will default to just making up some pretentious nonsense like, oh, it came to me in a dream, actually. I doubt it. I really doubt that. But let's just assume in this case it's real. Joaquin Phoenix had a dream about Joker 2 being a musical. Just keep that a dream, buddy. Like, that's a stupid idea. That's not even something worthy of taking to anyone. That's embarrassing. And what's even more embarrassing is how up his own ass Todd Phillips is that he thought that that was a great decision, and he thought he knew better than everyone else, so he shunned the rest of the department to do his own thing, because he knew better. He had the billion-dollar blockbuster mega hit Joker. He can do no wrong. So he ran with this stupid idea that came to Phoenix in a dream. They also apparently tossed around another stupid idea about putting it on Broadway before making it into a film. Though I guess admittedly it would have been better on Broadway than in a movie setting, because at least then they could try and make the musicals work and weave it more into the actual plot. But unfortunately we were cursed with this film. Todd Phillips had free reign with Warner Bros. Wanting him to do his thing, and the film had no test screenings. Because why would you test screen this? Todd Phillips knows what you like. Clearly, he's in your fucking walls. He is in your noodle reading your mind. He's delivering that fire that you've been looking for with Joker sequel. Lady Gaga signed on before the script was finished. That one I don't think is that big of a deal. She is a talented actress, so if she signed on because she was excited for the script even though it wasn't done, I don't think it's that surprising or that big of an issue, but I do imagine she might have some regret with agreeing to do this before seeing the final script, because this has become a joke. Next, the new DC boss, James Gunn, had zero involvement, gave notes, but Todd Phillips didn't use them. Used them for toilet paper, I'm sure. I mean, why would you try and give notes to Todd Phillips? I mean, he's got no blemishes on his resume. He knows how to handle a sequel. What could you possibly have notes on for Joker Folie à Deux? It's a fucking masterpiece, clearly. God, I don't know a whole lot about Todd Phillips other than his previous work, but his attitude for this movie is so yucky. It's so embarrassing just reading about him. The film had a budget of $200 million, which included a $20 million salary for Phoenix, $12 million for Lady Gaga. Not surprising, almost every blockbuster that comes out is in like the $100-200 million plus ballpark. I imagine this film in the marketing budget alone adds an additional $200 million to that figure. Musical aspects were largely downplayed in marketing, with director Todd Phillips at first insisting it wasn't one. I don't remember Todd Phillips trying to shut that down or anything, put the kibosh on it. For as long as I can remember, the film, since its official announcement, had always had that knowledge revealed that there was a lot of musical elements to it. So I went in with the impression that this was going to be a musical, and I imagine a lot of others did as well. But again, if you just watch the trailers, it doesn't really come across that way. So perhaps Todd Phillips made that conscious decision to hide that fact, because musicals, I mean, especially for fans of the first Joker movie, probably aren't going to be that enticing for this kind of audience. So I imagine that's probably accurate, but I don't recall Todd Phillips trying to downplay it. Christopher Nolan reportedly changed the ending of the first movie because it ended with Phoenix's Joker carving a smile. There was no resistance for the sequel, with Nolan leaving Warner Bros. That was fascinating to me. So apparently, Todd Phillips had actually wanted in the first film him to cut the smile into his face. Christopher Nolan was apparently still with Warner Bros. At the time, so he had say-so here and said, "You're a fucking idiot." No, he shut that shit down real quick. But now that Nolan left Warner Bros., Todd Phillips was left to his own devices again and went hog wild, so as all of you know by now, the Joker 2 ends with a completely random psychopath who shanks Joaquin Phoenix's Joker in the hallway where the movie begins, because nothing in this film fucking changes and nothing actually matters in the movie. This random guy abruptly kills him, and then in the background cuts a smile into his face. Just Todd Phillips paying a little disrespect to Nolan here, and the legacy that Nolan built with that Joker. It's such an insulting thing to conclude here, because it's not well done. It comes out of nowhere, and this whole film is garbage in the first place, so it's just an even bigger waste of time. I understand why Nolan would absolutely not want Phillips to do that. It's also just highly unnecessary and doesn't actually tie into anything. So it's super dumb, but since Nolan wasn't at Warner Bros. At the time, Todd Phillips unfortunately got to do it, and we're all worse off for it. This next one had me giggling. Todd Phillips was secluded on a ranch during the opening weekend. I think he was bracing for the storm. I think he knew that this was not going to be received well. It was already not being highly reviewed from the people that had already seen it. So I imagine he had the inkling that, man, maybe he missed the mark. Or I could be totally wrong. Perhaps this is Todd Phillips just under the impression that his high art speaks for itself, and he wants people to come up with their own conclusions based on the nothing burger he served them. So he isolated himself from the rest of society to give us this chance. But more than likely, he just went to the ranch to just go ahead and tune everything out and count all the money Warner Bros. Dumped on his fucking front porch for this absolutely trash sequel. Film was panned by fans and critics. It currently has a 33% from Rotten Tomatoes critics and a 31% audience score. It has the cinema score of D, lowest ever for a comic book film. Domestically opened with 37.8 million, which is lower than comic book films like Morbius and the Marvels, and it needs 450 million globally to break even, which may lose the studio over 150 million, and Warner Bros. Discovery is already in $40 billion of debt. And god damn it, they earned every penny of that debt. Warner Bros. Keeps making the stupidest decisions. I am always surprised to see what new batshit insane idea fucking Zaslav comes up with. Like, every move he makes, he's like the opposite of King Midas, where King Midas would turn things to gold. Zaslav comes around with a cheese touch. He turns everything to actual poop. He is just, I don't know how he even got this position. He is bad at his job. So Warner Bros. Is deep in debt. This is not helping at all. And I just had to talk about it again. You know, Joker 2 is all about musicals and dancing, so you know what, I'll give you one of these. I'll dance on the grave of Joker 2. What a fucking disaster. And it earned it too, man. The movie is bad, the decision making was bad with it, and Warner Bros. Really needs to figure it out, because it is getting embarrassing for that whole company. That's about it. See ya. PU, Borderlands movie is a big stinker. Everyone knows it. If you've seen the movie, I'm sorry. If you haven't seen the movie, I'm jealous. It's truly atrocious no matter how you spin it. Every possible thing you could ever hope to enjoy about a film is absent in the Borderlands movie. I think it's unanimously hated across the board. If you find me one human being that says it's a good movie, I'll find you a liar. But I'm not here to just shit on the movie again. I did plenty of that yesterday. I cleaned out my whole colon on Borderlands yesterday. Today, I want to talk about the Take-Two CEO's response to the criticism, because it's not getting stellar reviews. There's not exactly glowing reviews. There's not a whole lot of enthusiasm behind what people are witnessing. And I'm using the word witness instead of watched, because when you witness something, it's usually something traumatic, like some kind of tragedy, and that is very much what this movie is. So no one's happy about it from what I can tell, for good reason. It's just bad. And now good old goober Strauss Zelnick has spoken out about this, urging people to give the film a chance. Yeah, it may have debuted at a 0%, then finally up to a 3%, and then eventually even a 6%, really fucking shooting to the stars there. But hey, don't let that cloud your judgment of it. You know, as Darman taught us, you can't judge a book by its cover. Go give the film a chance. Go waste your money on this movie, says Strauss Zelnick. Now, Strauss Zelnick is the Take-Two CEO, and he's no stranger to putting on the squeaky nose, but god damn it, this clown always finds a way to surprise me with just how delusional he is. When asked if the film's success or failure will make any meaningful impact on Take-Two, Zelnick said no. Financially, the film won't make a dent. And then he dropped to his knees in his private jet saying, "Give the film a chance." Let's give the film a chance. A lot of people worked really hard on it. The underlying intellectual property is phenomenal. The cast is amazing. I think the look and feel is really terrific. So let's see what audiences have to say. But to answer your question, no, the performance of the film wouldn't have a financial impact on us or on the franchise one way or another. I am certain Strauss Zelnick has never touched Borderlands in his life. If he ever even held a game controller, I bet that shit would burn his flesh like a vampire in the sunlight. The guy is just a corporate drone. He is this husk that has human flesh grafted onto it. He's just this being of greed. He doesn't know Borderlands. I doubt he's ever touched the game, and I'm pretty confident he hasn't watched the movie either. In fact, I'm more confident that he hasn't seen the film than I am confident that the sun will rise tomorrow. I also love how he mentions the cast being terrific. How out of touch can you fucking be? That's one of the biggest complaints about the film from everyone with eyes. The casting in this movie makes no sense at all. It's clear the bulk of the budget went with just getting A-list celebrities on board. And they probably had to pay out the wazoo for it because none of them really seem like they want to be there at all. So they probably had to fucking fork over fat doubloons like Scrooge McDuck here to get them to put their name on this pile of dog shit. It is an embarrassing movie, and the actors seem embarrassed to be in it. So they spent all of their money getting Kevin Hart, Jamie Lee Curtis, Cate Blanchett, Jack Black. Jack Black being the only one that tries at all in this film. Everyone else just like fucking sleepwalks through it. That is not something to highlight. It's very clear that the entire strategy for this film wasn't to make a good movie. It was to just try and sell tickets by having big names attached to it. It's the worst tactic ever. It's a certified how many times we have to teach you this lesson, old man moment. There are so many video game adaptations that have come before this that have proven infinite number of times now that this formula doesn't work. If you make an adaptation that doesn't pay respect to the source material and just doesn't even try, it doesn't work. It flops. Financially, the reception to it is bad. Like, look at the Halo show which recently just got canceled. Or the plethora of old video game movies we can all point to over the last couple decades. I don't know what puppeteer is behind the scenes, the goddamn Illuminati over there, that keeps, infecting the brains of these Hollywood suits that are convincing them that the way to make adaptation successful is just by getting big name actors on board. It just doesn't work, and they keep doing it. It's actual insanity. They spent $90 million on this star-studded cast for this $5 fart of a film that they produced here. It makes no sense. If you make a bad movie, it doesn't matter how much star power is behind it, it's not going to succeed. I don't know how that lesson hasn't been learned yet. Strauss also reached deep into his bag of tricks here to try and get more asses in the seats by playing the classic, come on guys, people worked really hard on this film, we should all support it. Does a bear shit in the woods? Obviously, there were some hardworking people behind the scenes on this film. Also, Strauss, since you really seem to care so much about the hardworking team here, you might want to look into why some of them didn't receive proper credit for their work. That's a bit suspicious, that's weird. But anyway, yes, there were people that worked hard on this movie, no doubt. But that doesn't mean that all of a sudden it's immune from criticism. It is not a good movie. And I would wager a guess that a lot of the people that worked hardest on this film were not the ones that were behind the scenes lobbying and pumping their fists saying, "We need Kevin Hart in this movie. We need Cate Blanchett in this movie. Pay fucking hand over fist amount of money to get Jamie Lee Curtis in our Borderlands movie." I imagine there was quite a few people that were actually passionate about Borderlands that were probably fucking crushed with what they had to do on this film, because it's not like they were at the top of the food chain putting together these awful decisions. And I also imagine the VFX department was dreadfully overworked, like Hollywood has become so accustomed to doing here, because ultimately the visuals are really rough. And I never blame the VFX departments for that, because now I've become very well aware of just how cruel the industry is to that entire sector, and my heart actually breaks for them. So I imagine all of the hardest working people were the ones that Strauss doesn't know a single name of. It's so silly to try and deflect by calling in the wambulance about, like, come on, someone worked really hard on this, you can't be mean to it. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It costs $15 to $20 per ticket to see this movie. That's a lot of fucking clams. And it's not worth it at all. And there is nothing wrong with talking about why it's not worth it. He then has the nerve to say that Take-Two is really selective about what games it turns into films, and says that the company doesn't want its imprint on anything unless it's superb. Really, Strauss? You would consider the Borderlands movie superb? This would meet that criteria? He then goes on to just reassure everyone that it's not core to them, you know, they don't need to be doing this because it doesn't have like a massive effect on them, like their bottom line or anything, so it'll probably maintain its approach to only doing so selectively in the foreseeable future. But this article did remind me that there is another project in the work here, a BioShock film at Netflix. If that didn't oh my god, I'm having a full-blown Porky Pig moment here out of pure disgust. If that didn't send shivers down your spine, I don't know what will. A BioShock Netflix film following the banger that is the Borderlands movie. What a recipe for success, huh? Who's counting the days, right? Like, get your calendars ready. I can't wait for that fucking thing to drop. That's gonna be a real heater. Throw out all your DVDs and Blu-rays and forget everything you thought you knew about cinema, because it's about to be redefined with the next fucking Take-Two film project here with BioShock coming to Netflix. Oh my bussy trembles in fear at the thought of how bad that might be. If the Borderlands movie is any indication of the quality coming forward, we're in for a real treat with the BioShock film. I'm already just preparing to be really stunned at how bad that one might be. They'll drop like the announcement trailer and it'll reveal that James Corden has been cast as a Big Daddy. It's just so weird to me how we're still getting horrible adaptations. The roadmap is there. We have seen so many good adaptations recently. Like, you can see that all of the success is right there, and they just out of spite choose not to follow that and instead just be like, no, we know better than fans of the property that we're adapting. In fact, we know the direction that people actually want to see it to make it accessible to all audiences. And then they do what they did 20 years ago when every adaptation was trash. Let's all point and laugh at the absolute floundering it's doing in the box office right now. It's open to $4 million so far. On a $100 million budget, that is super rough. Unsurprisingly, people aren't just blindly going to see it because of the A-list actors in it. They're not just zombies flooding in the door to watch this pile of shit just because those names are attached to it. It seems like you actually have to make a pretty decent movie too to get people to get in the seats. What an absolute clunker. 4 million is significantly lower than I would have ever imagined for this film, and I'm actually super proud that people aren't just going to see it just because of the title of it or the actors in it. It really isn't worth the time or money. So it's very reassuring to see that it's doing so poorly here, because it, under no circumstances, should succeed. It's purely a cash grab that isn't grabbing much cash right now. They actually would have made more money if they just compiled every cutscene from the Borderlands series into a movie and released it for free on YouTube. They probably would have made more off just the fucking AdSense from that, as opposed to this $100 million theatrical catastrophe. But yeah, don't listen to Strauss. It's not worth giving the film a chance. The movie's just bad. That's about it. See ya. The word fantastic is defined by Merriam-Webster as meaning excellent. It's used to express that something is really good, even great, like Tony the Tiger says. But this definition no longer holds any meaning in my eyes. When I see the word fantastic, forevermore I will now only think of the scam game company Fantastic, the absolute clowns responsible for The Day Before. It is a never-ending disaster. The rain won't stop falling, but it won't wash away the tears as players who have expected that this game to be good for over a year find out that they were the victims of a giant fucking scam. So Fantastic HQ posted their official statement today where they said this. They dropped this stinky bombshell. Today we announced the closure of Fantastic Studio. Unfortunately, the day before has failed financially and we lack the funds to continue. All income received is being used to pay off debts to our partners. The game has been out for 4 days and they're already throwing in the towel like, it's over. It's done. We've lost all of our money. It's kaput. And it is an absolutely revolting pile of garbage. But it's only been 4 days. I've never seen a studio give up this quickly. It really just seems like a convenient excuse to close up shop and run away and hide because of all of the shady business they'd been up to over the last year or so. But anyway, we invested all our efforts, resources, and man-hours into development of the day before, which was our first huge game. We really wanted to release new patches to reveal the full potential of the game, but unfortunately we don't have the funding to continue the work. It's important to note that we didn't take any money from the public during the development of the day before. There were no pre-orders or crowdfunding campaigns. We worked tirelessly for 5 years, pouring our blood, sweat, and tears into the game. At the moment, the future of Day Before and Prop Night is unknown, but the servers will remain operational. We apologize if we didn't meet your expectations. We did everything within our power, but unfortunately, we miscalculated our capabilities. Creating games is an incredibly challenging endeavor. We're grateful to everyone who supported us during these difficult years. It's been a fantastic journey over the past 8 years. And then they go through their resume there. So the reason they keep driving home the idea that, hey, we didn't take any money from anyone during the long time of misleading the public into what we were actually working on. We didn't take any money. Thus, we can't possibly be misconstrued as some kind of illegitimate business or a scam. But there's many other ways you scam people besides taking their money directly. Like, you did inadvertently end up taking people's money through false advertisement. You did technically scam them because you advertised an open world MMO game. You advertised so many things that aren't in the actual game you released, and so many players still thought that's what they were going to get with your package. So you did still take their money eventually, even though it wasn't crowdfunded in the beginning. You still ultimately did scam your audience. But anyway, I want to break down the whole situation around this studio as well as the day before, and also there's a little bit more that's going on here besides just the closure of their studio that I'd like to talk about. Now, I'm just going to break down the basics of this if you haven't followed this story. It's something I've talked about for about a year now, and the game just came out, so it's being talked about again. I also just made a video on it. But the day before was Steam's most wish-listed game. It was a series of trailers that were advertising a product that never actually existed, and the developers, their studio, is called Fantastic. Thus, they're responsible for the most misleading marketing I've ever seen. That would be like me trying to market myself on Tinder as being 6'5". Like, you can't really tell in a lot of the photos, but eventually someone's going to find out that I'm not that tall. And that's exactly what happened with this game. Everything they were showcasing, this open world zombie game, never actually existed. So what happened is, what did release 4 days ago is this fucking mess, this wonky piece of shit that is unplayably bad. And it's clear that they never ever had that product they were showcasing for a year that people were so excited for. Now, I have a working game theory on what exactly led to all of this. I truly think Fantastic as a studio made all of these trailers to generate as much hype as possible to get like an audience hooked on their idea, their concept, to try and sell it to investors, to get a lot of investor backing behind it. So they go through this nefarious plot. They do get a ton of people excited for the day before, most wish-listed game on Steam and all that. But maybe no investors ever bid. Maybe they never received any investor backing. So then maybe they felt as though they were pressured at that point. They had their ass held to the fire. They have all of these people demanding a game that they don't have and they don't have the ability to make. And perhaps they were fearful of a potential lawsuit for what they were doing. So then they cobbled together this piece of shit in their colon and poop it out onto Steam 4 days ago, and the rest is history. It's bad. Everyone hates it because it's really, really bad. And now they feel as though they can comfortably wash their hands of this whole chapter of the book and walk away without being in like legal trouble or anything like that. That's what I think happened, because I have no other explanation for why they would make a fake trailer, make fake trailers for a game that they weren't actively making and never were actively making. It doesn't compute. If this was a Kickstarter thing, then I'd get it. Their whole plan was to scam people by getting a ton of money in this game they weren't making. Like, that happens all the time on Kickstarter. But here they weren't making money throughout this process of like misleading people. So what the fuck was the point? I can't quite figure it out. So this is the best theory I have for it. Now anyway, that's kind of the whole breakdown in a nutshell. Now I definitely want to mention that the game is no longer available for purchase anymore apparently. So everyone who's got the game has a rare gem on their hands because you can't buy it anymore. They closed the studio and they closed access to the game, which makes sense because how could they keep the game open if the studio's not there? Where the fuck would the money go? It'd just go into like an endless void. But it seems as though the goal for this group of goofballs is now to erase the day before from the internet entirely. To wipe its presence, just poof into the night, vanish. So people could move on and forget, and they could all go to their next big scam project perhaps. Because that seems to be the direction that they're trying to go. And also, it's worth mentioning, when the day before released, they themselves posted this bullet point list of very odd things. This is just a really fishy thing that went up, and it immediately sounded some alarm bells for me. On stream, I even said to one of the players, well, I didn't say it to him. There was a player in my day before lobby who was like, man, I can't wait for the updates to really smooth out this game. I said that that's never happening. I knew this game was never going to be updated. Like I mentioned, this feels as though they put it out because they felt they absolutely had to and they had no other choice but to produce something tangible. And now that they did, they run away and can pretend it never happened. And this bullet point list is the main thing that made me feel that way. So it's like, to our future player who will dive into the game on December 7th, we made this for you. So like almost a little victory lap, you know, it's a celebration together. We'll continue improving the game and adding content. That didn't age well. It didn't even make it a fucking week before they put her down, took it behind the barn. They then have a bunch of mumbo jumbo to the haters. To a person who didn't believe in us, we made this game for you too. We accept any kind of criticism and don't hold a grudge against you. Before we continue moving forward together, kindly allow us to note a few things. Please forgive us for not doing the best marketing and teasers. We learn something new and improve ourselves every single day. Jesus. You made teasers and marketing for something that never existed. And they also copied quite a bit of things from those as well. Please don't accuse us of scamming. That's not true. We didn't take a penny from anyone. Literally begging people to just stop calling them Scam Game, even though they are Scam Game Studio. Like this is still a scam. Please don't accuse us of asset flip. That's not true also. Our team worked day and night for 5 years to make our dream game a reality. Which is also not true because the actual fucking city map is an asset. They used assets. Like, I don't know why they're just blatantly lying about it. And then please don't underestimate our work. It wasn't easy. We are like you. We worked hard. And we're incredibly happy that our game will finally see the light of day for everyone to explore. Saw the light of day for 4 days. It didn't even make it long enough to learn how to crawl before you gave up on it. Well, it was always the plan to give up on it, clearly. I think that was designed from the beginning. They got a huge influx of cash. I think they had like a peak player count of like 30K. That's a lot of money. Like, that is actually a lot of money that they got up front for this fucking game, this pile of shit. So they did make a pretty penny off it and then bounce. They just said, we're out. The whole thing is so scummy. I think everybody knew this game wasn't going to get any real support from this team. I think all of us were surprised they even put something out to begin with. That was the biggest shocker about any of this, that they actually produced something, even though it was barely functional and absolutely horrid to play. The fact they made something was such a surprising twist. But yeah, everything else besides that is not surprising. Them closing immediately after this comes out, after getting some money from the gamers, that super expected. I didn't think it'd be 4 days. I thought they'd close it after like a month or so of hosing people down and maybe like drip feeding a couple of meaningless updates here and there, perhaps, like maybe. I didn't expect it to be this quick, but yeah. That's kind of the whole story here, and I feel like that's probably where the legend of the day before ends. So yeah, that's about it. So yeah. This has been an incredible year for games. We've had some masterpieces drop this year, and also we've seen some of the most historic flops that I have no doubt will be talked about for decades to come. I'm talking about failures the likes of which I didn't even know were possible in the modern gaming industry. Concord is the obvious one that pops into everyone's noodle because that is probably statistically the biggest catastrophe in the entire entertainment sector. Somehow the goober goblins at the top of the food chain at Sony convinced themselves, like delusionally brainwashed themselves into thinking that somehow Concord was a worthwhile investment, so they dumped hundreds of millions of clams into it, and it was doomed from the start. It was dead on arrival. It never even had a chance to breathe. It was smothered before it even left the womb. It'd be like pouring hundreds of millions of dollars into asbestos and fidget spinners and then wondering why it didn't work, why it didn't make money. Concord cost so much money, and it didn't even last as long as a mosquito. It had a shorter lifespan than a mosquito. If I farted right now, that smell would probably linger longer than Concord existed as a playable game before they took it off life support. But it wasn't even life support because it never had life. This is not a video about Concord. The point I was making is, we have seen some incredible games like Nine Souls, like Black Myth Wukong, like Space Marine 2, like Astrobot, and then we've seen some things that are absolutely going to go down in the fucking books, etched into the tablets of time as an embarrassment, a shame, a blight on the gaming industry, like Concord, and like Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. That's what I actually want to talk about today. So many of you probably don't remember Suicide Squad. That came out earlier this year to a collective yawn and sigh from pretty much every gamer ever. Warner Bros. Reportedly lost $200 million on this flop, but unlike Sony with Concord, Warner Bros. Is still going with Suicide Squad. Season 3 just dropped to a whopping 300 players on release day. They were scratching at their neck, foaming at the mouth, waiting for Season 3 to drop so they could play as their favorite hero, Lawless. I don't know who this character is. It doesn't seem like it's a character many people were expecting, much like how Season 2 brought Mrs. Freeze, where most people were expecting it to be like a bigger character in the universe. And Season 3 has even less players than Season 2. And now, 2 days after it dropped, it's back down to like 100. It is struggling. It never really got off the ground running in any way, shape, or form. But they're not giving up on it. They're still giving it CPR on this cold corpse here. 300 players, and they're still putting resources behind this. They said $200 million in the shitter, we can do more. We can shovel more money into the fucking furnace here. So they keep putting content into it. And it got me thinking, what's more shameful? Concord only existing for 2 weeks before they realized what a joke it was and they just pulled the plug? Or Suicide Squad still getting updates so many months later that nobody wants, it doesn't improve the game, and it's still laughable? Which one is worse? I don't have the answer because both have pros and cons. Concord, the star that burns brightest burns out quickest. You had 2 weeks of playtime, 2 weeks of fun with Concord, and then it's gone. And now it just exists as a myth and the punchline to many jokes. Suicide Squad, though, it's still trotting along like an injured animal, still just like crawling its way through the desert here. I think that actually might be more sad. I feel especially bad for the developers that have to keep putting content into this, knowing full well no one's playing it, no one wants it, and it's probably not content they want to make either. It's decisions from the suits that say, hey, we marketed it as a live service game, we got to keep putting shit in it, sorry, so you're going to put this shit in it. So they do. That's got to be a terrible feeling. And I know Concord and Suicide Squad aren't alone here. They're far from the only ones at the bottom of the septic tank of the AAA gaming space. It has been a rough year for a lot of AAA games. They take like a decade now to make a single game, and it costs hundreds of millions of dollars to make them. So they're already kind of set up for failure unless they somehow just hit a home run, like a fucking grand salami, and make like $1 billion. But that doesn't happen often. So even when a game is well received and popular for the most part, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a successful investment for the company. Take, for example, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. That game has glowing reviews from pretty much everybody, and according to Square Enix, it really underperformed for them. So AAA gaming isn't in a healthy state, and it hasn't been for a while. I get asked a lot during streams if I think there's going to be a video game collapse. I firmly believe there won't be, but I do think the AAA space, like specifically AAA gaming, is going to have a drastic overhaul as they're having this rude awakening where they realize they can't just continue to push out the same fucking game every single time, like Ubisoft. Star Wars Outlaws, I fucking hated. There's a lot of people that love it because it's familiar. It's a very same Ubisoft experience. It's comfort food, and there's nothing wrong with that. I am just very tired of that formula. And it seems like most people are, because Star Wars Outlaws has reportedly only sold 1 million copies so far, making that a big underperformer for Ubisoft. Another really recent example is Bethesda learning a hard lesson with Starfield Shattered Space, their new DLC that just dropped like a day ago. That had so much hype out the wazoo, except it really didn't. So the DLC dropped. It didn't really like blow up the player count or anything. There was a bit of a surge in players, but nothing crazy. And it turns out the DLC is just more of the exact same thing, and a lot of people are extremely disappointed with it. So much so, in fact, that it is now one of Bethesda's lowest rated products ever. Just like when the game came out, people are exhausted of the exact same formula Bethesda has been using for so long without any real deviation or innovation or improvement, really. It's like just my main critique of it is just how boring it is. Like, it's just empty planets that you explore with nothing really to do that makes it interesting. The characters aren't nearly as interesting as they were in previous Bethesda games. Like, everything about it just seems like a downgrade from previous Bethesda games, but now it's in space. The game is just half-baked and lame. It was so lame, in fact, that modders made a statement saying that they didn't have any drive to actually mod Starfield because they didn't like it. It was boring. And to this day, there is no real modding scene for Starfield. Not like a very big one compared to like every other Bethesda title ever. Like fucking Skyrim is still getting thousands of mods every day, basically. It's like Bethesda titles and mods used to go hand in hand. They were like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Till Starfield. No one wanted that peanut butter and jelly. That was a fucking peanut butter and ass sandwich, and no one was wanting that ass. It's just, these companies are putting more and more money and more time into developing worse and worse products. Somehow, even though the technology, like with the Unreal Engine and everything, continues to evolve and get better, somehow the games don't. And I'm talking about AAA gaming. I think indie gaming is in the best state it has ever been. The lower budget titles are fucking crushing it this year. Absolutely crushing it. Like Nine Souls. I can't sing Nine Souls praises enough. But AAA companies, I think, are so fucking lost in the sauce. Like, it's so expensive and they're so afraid to do anything that might be like a risk to their bottom line, so they end up playing it so safe and just give you like the same game for the 1000th time, but this time it took them 5 extra years, and people are just kind of tired of it. Like, who the fuck was asking for a new hero shooter like Concord, and especially a $40 one? No one in the world, no sane human being outside of Arkham Asylum would ask for something like that. Or who was asking for a live service Suicide Squad game? Like, it's all just absurd. Though, for Star Wars Outlaws, people have been asking for an open world Star Wars game for years, but what they got was a Ubisoft open world Star Wars game. And nobody wants that, really. It's just one of those things where I think AAA gaming is not in a healthy spot. Anyway, though, just wanted to rant about this a little bit. That's it. See ya. Many of you have been sleeping soundly, ignorant to the fact that history is unfolding right in front of our fucking eyes right now. In front of us, we are graced with the most beautiful gaming disaster we've ever seen. Somewhere out there right now, Cliff Bleszinski has the hardest boner he's had since 2006, because the absolute failure, the unmatchable catastrophe of the Culling 2's launch makes Lawbreakers look like a triumphant success, the fucking Citizen's Kane of gaming in comparison to the Culling 2. In just a short 19 hours after it's launched, it is down to 1 active player, with an average of 21.5, which is not even enough to start a single round because you need 30. So at no point can you ever even play this abominable fucksucker of a game, because there's just not enough people playing it. For those who don't know, the Culling 1 is probably the first Battle Royale game that was ever invented, and it was an alright game. I enjoyed it, it was fine. But they killed the game, they kept making changes nobody wanted, so it drove the players away. In response to that, they abandoned it, and instead what they did is they released this photo on Twitter to hype up the Culling 2. Then they released the trailer on Monday. On Tuesday they released the game, and now today, on Thursday, as of making this video, the game is absolutely 100% dead. Now, it's not a free game, it's actually got a pretty hefty price tag, especially since what you're essentially buying is a pile of dog shit, but I paid for this because I wanted to be part of this history. I wasn't born in time to become an astronaut and go on the Apollo 11 mission to be one of the first men to walk on the moon, but this is a close second place. I can be part of this history. Let's check out the customization here. I bet it's really fucking thorough to the point where I can customize the number of pubic hair on her vagina. Look at these eyelashes. Looks like they're eating her face. Let's see what other goodies Santa Claus has brought us here. Look at all these hair options. This looks... Oh, I don't have enough V-Bucks for that one. Let's hit it and shit it. It's game time. Or rather, lack of game time. Try a solo match. See if I can at least find the other man wandering this barren wasteland. I'm in. I'm now part of history. Steam's loneliest multiplayer game. The fastest dead game. It warms my heart to see an obvious cash grab like this fail so spectacularly. Such an uninspired game. Oh. Look at this. In the game design room at this studio's headquarters, they cooked up this beautiful football stadium, imagining hundreds of players flooding in. And now look at it. It's so empty. Just what it deserves. Earn your medals? More like earn your players with a better game, you fucking nerds! This is amazing. This is absolutely fantastic. Even the other active player right now is either sitting in the menu or sitting in a duos lobby or squad lobby. I don't know, but I'm gonna find out. It is now my mission for the next maybe 15 minutes to try and find the other guy. This is just a surreal experience right now. I feel like one of those explorers that go into dilapidated insane asylums and amusement parks and film it. This shit is amazing. If I didn't tell you this game just came out, you wouldn't have believed me. This shit was dead on arrival. A literal stillborn game. I've never seen something like this happen, and let alone be able to experience it like this firsthand. Look at this. It's like they put this vantage point here so you could overlook the emptiness. This is where Squidward should have gone when he wanted to be all alone. Let me try duos to see if I can match up with the other brave warrior scouting these fields. I bet the other guy's one of the developers just sitting in the lobby in the fucking nightmare he's created with his face in his hands, thinking, this abhorrent creation. It's my doing. I'm the Frankenstein to this monster. Now I am become shit developer. This is the fate we chose. This is so fucking crazy. I mean, honestly, I couldn't have imagined this game flopping as hard as it did. I didn't think anything could ever beat Lawbreaker's dead game speedrun until the Culling 2. This game has an uncontested and probably unbeatable world record for the fastest dead multiplayer video game. Now, you can cheat and like point out some indie games that were released and no one had heard of them before, but this game follows the first big Battle Royale game. It's the sequel to one of the first Battle Royale games, and look what happened to it. Holy shit, it's amazing. This is the perfect example, the epitome of lazy cash grabs, and it gets the fate it deserves. You can't be happier about it. Radical Heights had more passion behind it than this game. I am so elated at the fact that this game is as dead as it is. This is going to serve as an example to all game developers out there who hop on the latest trend as quickly as they can to cash in on it as quickly as they can, that it doesn't always work, and sometimes you end up with the Culling 2. And that's something that I don't think anyone out there wants. I'm not going to find the other guy. He's probably just sitting in the main menu regretting his $20 purchase, or probably as we speak he's going for a Steam refund. I don't blame him. I'm actually probably going to do the same. I can't even play the game. I genuinely can't even get into the game. What an amazing disaster. Thank you, Culling 2 developers. I don't even know the name of your studio, but I know the name of your product now. And that's gotta count for something. So far, 2020 hasn't exactly been a great year for giving things. Mainly things have been taken away instead of given to us. I mean, I'm pretty fucking sure even jolly old St. Nicholas himself, Santa Claus, got laid off because of coronavirus. But it's not to say that there isn't someone still picking up that torch. Amongst the ruins stands a hero, Xavient Games. Xavient Games is unfortunately not a household name, though I think they should be. Xavient Games are the masterminds behind the Culling franchise. The Culling, the first game, was perhaps one of the first Battle Royale games that really helped kickstart the Battle Royale craze, So you can really thank them for that fucking hemorrhoid that's plagued the gaming industry for the last couple of years. And the Culling has had a troubled history ever since its first successful game. And make no mistake, it was a successful and pretty decent game in my opinion, but something happened. That success must have went to their head and took a shit. It's like they elected Patrick Star to lead them from that point forward. It's like aliens infiltrated the studio and are only pretending to understand how humans work. Their decisions they've made have been laughably fucking dumb. They're like the world's worst court jester because they lack self-awareness, but you still can't help but laugh at them. It's fucking crazy. So before I talk about their massive, huge new announcement today, I'd like to start with the beginning, where things really went wrong. They made a lot of the weird decisions with updating the culling. Eventually the player base started to fizzle out, and then in 2018, they released the infamous Culling 2, the worst video game launch of all time and perhaps the most disastrous launch of anything ever in the history of humanity. And I mean that in all sincerity. A fucking dude trying to sell rats during the Black Plague probably saw more success on launch than the Culling 2 did. I made a whole video talking about this when it came out because it truly was a historic moment that I got to partake in, because what happened is the Culling 2 developers, Xaviant, decided to release a surprise trailer for the Culling 2 out of nowhere with no mention of a sequel ever, and they completely changed the game. The Culling was focused on melee, the Culling 2 was basically PUBG clone if they tried to port it to the Game Boy. It was less functional than Big Rig's over-the-road racing, and was less successful than Lawbreakers. This fucking game is this unholy amalgamation of filth and diarrhea with a little bit of coding thrown in. But not only was it a game no one was asking for and a product nobody wanted ever, no one had even once had like a singular thought of, wow, wouldn't it be cool if the Culling was kind of like PUBG but with less features? But it also just didn't work. That's why I say it's less functional than Big Rig's over-the-road racing. The game wouldn't start because when the game launched, its all-time peak was 249 players, ever. And within 19 hours, it was down to one player, me, when I made the video on it. I was literally the only player in the game at one point. I was the last fucking stand, the last holdout of the Culling 2. I was legend. I was Will Smith in that bitch, in that post-apocalyptic fucking toilet bowl. It was a truly serene experience, but again, within 19 hours the game had literally one player, and it was me just making the video talking about the fucking catastrophe they unleashed. So the game was dead on launch. You needed 30 players to start a match, but you could never get 30 players because there wasn't 30 players that owned the game for more than an hour. So I did a little bit of research, and I think across the entire lifespan of the game on PC, only 8 matches ever started. There was only enough players for 8 matches to have ever gone on in the entire lifespan of the game. It was an unbelievable and unmatchable disaster of a video game that they eventually pulled the plug on nobly and refunded everyone, which they absolutely needed to do. In response to the complete and utter failure of the Culling 2, they decided to dance on the Culling's corpse by re-releasing the first Culling and calling it Culling Origins. They released that later that year in September, I believe, and it still didn't work. Even with their free-to-play model they implemented into it, it still couldn't find a stable player base and was shut down in early 2019. So within 1 year, they had shut down 2 games completely. And now, that brings us to today. Now we enter Act 3 of this incredible fucking play that they've created at Xaviant. Today, out of nowhere yet again, they've announced that the Culling is coming back. The original Culling is coming back, but with a catch. It's only going to be on Xbox, and you have to pay $5.99 for it, and you only get to play 1 match a day for free. And for free is wrong because you still paid for the game, so you're not exactly getting anything for free. But you get 1 match a day for free, and if you want to play more than 1 match a day, you have to buy token packs to play more than 1 match a day. It comes with a lot of different options here, and the monetization model is perhaps the most bold approach to anything I've ever seen in my life. It's somehow even worse than a lot of these fucking mobile game models. It's even more predatory, greedy, and out of touch. It's so fucking silly. This makes AOL look like the forefront of innovation and listening to people. It is so out of touch, I can't even wrap my head around it. It's like an arcade game, but instead of just putting, quarters in for the arcade game tokens, you have to buy the arcade cabinet itself and then put in the tokens. It's fucking nuts. So here's a breakdown from the developer diary kind of outlining exactly what they're pitching here, and it is so fucking genius. It is the best idea I've ever seen. If you were ever looking for something to put money into and get nothing in return, but you didn't feel like just throwing it in the trash, this is the exact receptacle you can use. So if I may, let's just break down the anatomy here of this announcement. Let's go ahead and talk about the thought process. So the main problem with the Culling and the Culling 2 was no player base. I mean, the Culling 2 literally just couldn't even fucking start because there weren't enough players playing it. And when they went free to play, they still didn't have enough players playing the game to keep it going. So how did they solve this problem? Well, they put up a paywall. That should work. They couldn't give the fucking game away for free and have people playing it. So what the fuck do they think is going to happen by making you pay for it, and pay for it, and pay for it, and pay for it, and pay for it? You are actually paying to not play. You're paying to not play, to pay to not play, to pay to not play again. Because there's not going to be enough people that are going to start these matches. Unless they're fine starting with 2 people, I don't think you're going to find a match. It's a bold statement, but I'm going off historical evidence to point to this. So what could very well happen is you'd pay the $1, $5 or whatever to play an extra match, and it might not start because no one else would have paid for it. So you just paid money to stand in the waiting room in purgatory, in this fucking video game limbo. But not only that, there is no shame from this company re-releasing the same game for the 3rd time now. This is like that band, like Trapped, who has one song that they keep riding the high of and just using that to just ride on the fucking coattails and constantly re-releasing that shit. They just keep bringing this motherfucker back to make it worse each and every time. The developer's face in the video says it all right here. Nobody has even an iota of excitement surrounding the Culling coming back, especially with a model like this. All the goodwill the company had is completely gone and has been gone since fucking the first Culling's initial launch. To anyone out there that says EA is the worst video game company out there, I have to spit on you. Because you're very fucking wrong. It's Xaviant Games, but they're comically bad. EA I can definitely get behind with some of that like evil, greedy, anti-consumer shit, but Xaviant, they're like that supervillain in the old comic books that they're just kind of there to laugh at. They're not exactly like a bad supervillain. They're just very misguided and, you know, shitty. It's like harmlessly evil. I mean, I feel so bad for the Culling because, like I said, the first Culling was a good game, but that must have just been the biggest fluke ever. Because everything since then has been a disaster for the Culling and Xaviant. They just absolutely cannot even accidentally make a decision that makes sense. It's fucking crazy. I also do believe that Xaviant Games serves as the poster child, the epitome of ineptitude. The exact thing to strive not to be. You should look at Xaviant Games and then say, well, we've done a lot of fucked up shit, but at least we're not Xaviant Games. We haven't gone that far. They give you a lesson in the worst practices to implement into your pretty successful franchise. They show you how to speedrun killing a very popular game. It's wild to me. But hey, if you're excited, May 14th, Xbox launch for the Culling, only $5.99, 1 match a day. Plenty of tokens to go around, so get fucking excited to once again not be able to start a match, I imagine. I could be wrong. Maybe it'll have a booming player base of just Culling fanatics that have been scratching their necks like a meth addict waiting for their fix. They need the Culling, and they don't care that they only get 1 match a day. They'll tap into their mom's credit card to get 4 matches a day, 5 even. The sky's the limit. Crazy. Crazy times we're living in with the Culling coming back again. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about this because I truly do think the Culling and Xaviant Games is the best joke that keeps coming back from the video game industry. So yeah, that's about it. So yeah. Today I experienced what it must have felt like for early human scholars like Aristotle when they'd sit and ponder the deep complex issues plaguing society as well as taking notice of things going on around them and trying to make sense of all of it. And today, my philosophical thought experiment was, why is every single new movie that's coming out flopping? With the exception of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, most new movies that are coming out over the last few months are setting new records for how dog shit they're performing in the box office. These bad boys are flopping harder than LeBron James against the Denver Nuggets in the playoffs. It's getting rough. And I just read this headline here about a movie I didn't even know existed being DreamWorks' lowest opening for anything they've ever made, called Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken. It brought in just $5.2 million so far on opening weekend. And this is a $70 million budget, and that doesn't account for any of the marketing costs. So this is looking like a historic bomb here. And this isn't alone. Elemental is still in theaters and is not performing well. It was Pixar's second lowest opening ever, I believe. Like, what's going on here? It was a question that I wanted an answer to, so I got deep into exploring the inner machinations of my mind in order to get an answer. I was nearly ready to draw a bath and really get after it, really exercise my noodle. And following this thought line to its natural conclusion, you reach two questions. Are movies just getting worse, which is why people don't really care to go see them? Or do people just not really have an interest in going to a movie theater anymore? Pretty much everything we do in our day-to-day lives has become extremely convenient, whether it's ordering food or just general entertainment. You can watch pretty much every show and movie from the comfort of your own home. And you don't have to pay individually for each movie you want to see because eventually they hit streaming platforms that you have a subscription to. So, going to a movie theater is inconvenient. You have to drive to the theater. It's also expensive because the ticket prices just keep increasing exponentially. And God have mercy on your soul if you get a little appetite or a little thirsty and decide to buy something from the concession stand, because then you're out another $50 buster, because that shit is outrageously priced. It is downright criminal how expensive things are at a movie theater. I went to see a movie today. I saw the new Indiana Jones. I'll get to that in a moment, but it's what put this discussion top of mind for me. And I bought a water bottle. And not only did they have the gall, the fucking chutzpah, to sell me a Dasani water bottle, but they charged me $8 for the Dasani water bottle. That is sewage. Dasani is literally sewage in a bottle, and I paid $8 for the sludge. I really would have rather paid $8 for each employee there to spit into a cup and I'd drink that. Not only would it taste better than Dasani, but I'd feel less scammed. Point is, it's expensive going to a movie theater and it's inconvenient. So, is that the reason why a lot of people are choosing not to go, leading to so many box office disasters recently? It's a lot of questions that I've been looking at answers for the last few hours since coming back from the movie. And I wanted to just kind of talk about it because I find it so interesting. So let's dive into the first question. Are movies just getting worse? And is that the reason why people aren't bothering to go? Because it's not worth their time to see it? I think the answer to that is probably no. But I do think movies are getting less original. Because the budgets for films have gone up so much, like most films are like $70 million plus budgets. Most of the time even going north of 100 mil, 200 mil, and in the case of like Indiana Jones, 300 mil. These are, and it's an outrageous amount of clams in order to produce a modern blockbuster. So when you're gambling with that amount of money on a movie, most of the higher ups like to make sure that it's the safest possible investment they can make with it. So they choose to either make sequels or reboots or remakes, something that they know has a built-in core audience. So that's why you see most of what hits theaters these days is kind of derivative of other properties or just straight up a sequel. And I think that leads to a lot of people feeling like they've just kind of already been through this song and dance before. You're not getting a ton of unique experiences from huge blockbusters anymore. And I think that does play a role in it, but I don't think that necessarily means the movies themselves are worse. They're just so much safer. They just play everything super safe and by the book. Now, that's of course not talking about every movie that hits theaters. There's still a lot of companies that are doing lower budget productions that are far more creative and original. Of course, things like A24 and production houses like that. But on the whole, most of the big blockbusters are very generic, and it's food that you've had before. You're basically just getting junk food that you know isn't exactly like the best thing there is, but it's still good enough for a lot of people, and it has been that way for a long time. But I feel like at this point, people are just losing that sweet tooth. They don't really care to just keep seeing the same shit over and over again. Like superhero movies. Superhero movies, even the worst ones, used to still turn a massive profit. It was an infinite money glitch for a while, but now it's been patched. Superhero films aren't guaranteed to make you money. Case in point, The Flash. The Flash came out, and it had a crazy marketing campaign behind it. They had all kinds of celebrities singing its praises, celebrities that you would think would hate it. Like Stephen King was going crazy about it, talking about how good it was. Tom Cruise really loved it, saying, this is a certified semen siphoner. It's gonna make you nut, trust me. Kojima just posted a tweet talking about how great it was. Just so many celebrities talking about it being great, which I still believe was some kind of like paid marketing campaign that they haven't disclosed. I still find it so hard to believe after seeing the movie that all of these celebrities lost their fucking mind over it. Like, it's a fine film, but nothing that I think really changed the whole landscape. But they were talking about it like it reinvented the whole superhero genre. and it still bombed in the box office. Now, of course, there are other factors at play, like Ezra Miller and the crime spree Ezra Miller went on that went completely unpunished. There are certain things like that at play with The Flash, but I still think even if that wasn't the case, the movie probably wouldn't have been a glowing success then either. I think there is legitimately superhero fatigue because most people are assuming that they've already seen all of this kind of shit before, so probably aren't going to bother going through the inconvenience and the extreme cost of driving to a theater, paying for the tickets, when instead they could just wait for it to conveniently drop on their favorite streaming platform and watch it from home without spending a fucking dime, really, aside from the subscription cost. And to extend this a bit deeper for today's experience, like I mentioned, I saw Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. It's the 5th entry into the Indiana Jones franchise. I actually saw it with my parents. This is the first movie we've seen together since the Avengers movie, the first one, back in like 2012. So we decided to go to the theater and see it together because we all really like Indiana Jones. And it turns out the film is really struggling a bit with a $60 million debut. Now, this isn't exactly like a hard turbo flop or anything, but it's opening to less than what Kingdom of the Crystal Skull opened to back in 2008. And for a lot of people, that movie is considered a legitimate abomination in the Indiana Jones franchise, so I think there is a chance that people just wrote off the franchise after that one and maybe didn't even bother giving this a chance. I'm really not sure. But yeah, the movie is not performing nearly as well as they expected it to, despite the film's budget being like $300 million, which doesn't even account for the marketing costs, at least according to the numbers I'm seeing online. So this is a movie that needed to generate huge buzz, tons of doubloons, in order to turn any semblance of a profit, and it's not looking likely at the moment. So after watching the film, I'll give you like a little pseudo moist meter here. It's a fine movie. I don't think it's very good, but I don't think it's bad either. Like, I wouldn't say that this is an example of a movie that's so shitty that people probably just wouldn't bother going to a theater to see it. It's one of those movies where it doesn't really try to do anything interesting. It plays it very, very safe. You go there, you'll be entertained for the runtime, but it's not something that you'll really remember on the drive home. It's something that's easily forgotten. There's nothing wrong with it. I think there's a lot of goofy moments in it that don't make a whole lot of sense, as well as a couple of plot holes, but I'm not here to do a spoiler review for this. I'll just say overall, it's probably the second worst Indiana Jones movie. I still think it's probably a little bit better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but not by much. It doesn't even come close to the original trilogy. But again, I don't think it's like, an affront to God or anything. It's not horrible. So this wouldn't really be something that I would think would be an example of movies are just getting worse and that's why no one's going to see them. But I do think this is an example of this is a very safe, generic movie that most people probably wouldn't bother to see. In movie theaters, that is. This would be something you'd flip on when you're, just perusing your streaming platform of choice. And you'd throw it on for, some background noise. Or if you need something to kill fucking like 3 hours. This movie is way too long. I'm not just going to give a whole Indiana Jones review here, but point is, I don't think this is a movie that's so bad that it's scaring people away from going to see it. It's just, I do think it's not a movie that would get people excited to go. They tried to revive a beloved franchise again, and that bet is no longer working these days. Most people have seen through shameless cash grabs that just try and like piggyback off the goodwill of a great franchise that they knew and loved. And I think that's one of the big things that people are now just being kind of more conscientious of. Like, I know it's probably not going to be as good as the originals, so I'm not going to go out of my way to pay a ton of money for the tickets. And I'm certainly not going to pay a ton of money for the drinks and food. Because I swear to God, with the prices the way they are, you'd have to choose between paying for a bottle of Dasani or paying for a handful of rare earth minerals. Like, there's going to be like the same cost of a diamond at some point for a fucking bottle of Dasani at a movie theater. But yeah, I don't think that the main deterrent for people going to a theater is movies getting shittier, but I do think them refusing to take big, like, blockbuster risks on new IP or, like, more bold creative projects is definitely something that is not doing them any favors. But I think by far the biggest contributing factor is it's pricing people out, and it's just not convenient anymore, whereas everything else in the world is just getting more and more convenient, whereas going to a movie theater is going the opposite direction. It's getting less and less convenient and more expensive. So it's just one of those things where I think that's the biggest thing at play here for a lot of these flops that have been happening. Not necessarily that the projects are shittier. Like Ruby Gilman could be an absolute masterpiece. I have no fucking idea. But I don't feel like going to a theater to see it because it just doesn't really capture me as like worth the inconvenience of going there for it. Same with Elemental. Elemental just seems like a really kind of generic film. And that's not enough to get me like, in the car, and putting my ass in the seat in order to watch it just to see if it is generic or if it's like great. I don't really feel like bothering with that, and I feel like that's the way a lot of people feel because it's expensive and it's inconvenient. So that's kind of my guess for the flops. Just something I was thinking about today watching Indiana Jones and learning that it was not doing super hot in the box office, and I thought for sure Indiana Jones was going to be a shoo-in for profit, but clearly not. I think the age of being able to just kind of phone it in for movies and blockbusters and being able to make, tons of money off of very lazy writing or very generic storytelling and productions, I think that age is kind of behind us now. I think in order to stand out in the box office, it's being proven recently that you need a very strong, good movie. Like Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. That film is absolutely exploding. Another good example is Puss in Boots 2. Like, I think now we're entering an age where people are only going to go to a theater if it really seems like something special that will be worth their time and they'll get a great experience out of it. As opposed to how it used to be where people just kind of go to a theater to see anything, even if it looked kind of generic, because, they were in malls and everyone was out and about, like in malls and shit. So, I'll check out the newest superhero film just because it's there, and it'll probably just be, some mindless entertainment for a little while. And it wasn't that expensive back then compared to now. So I just think times are changing in the movie industry, and the top level execs aren't really realizing that. So they're just pouring more money into generic films, safe films, things they perceive as safe, and they're not getting the returns that they're expecting anymore, which I think is an overall good thing. I'd love more creative projects. I think everyone would. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. That's it. See ya. What's the best Goofy movie of all time? For the millionth time, it's Moonfall. There is no movie... I will just say there is no movie more entertaining than Moonfall. There is no movie that will keep you talking for as long as Moonfall will. There's nothing even close. He's the tier 1 good man. Should I watch Moonfall tonight? Yeah. I'd say don't watch it alone. Watch it with a friend. You guys will be spitballing theories back and forth on what the fuck you just watched. When's the watch party? Hey man, they still haven't updated watch parties. Like I said, I'll do it the second they actually make watch parties like an actually good feature on Twitch. But it is highly neglected. Have you heard of a movie called ZYZZYX Road that grossed $5? Yep. That's infamous. Everyone knows that. Oh, I guess maybe not. Chat doesn't know that. There's a movie called ZYZZYX Road. I forgot who's in it, but it had one big name. Oh yeah, Katherine Heigl. It came out 2006 and it made $30. $5 per theater that it was shown at. $1.2 million budget. I think it is, to this date, still the biggest flop in cinema history. I'm pretty sure. Wasn't the producer trying to make it flop? That just sounds like cope. That just sounds like a villain, like, it was all part of my plan. In fact, I wanted to lose over $1 million on this movie. You fools played right into my strategy. I think what actually happened is just nobody wanted to see it. It's a terrible name. ZYZZYX Road? It's a stupid name. The trailer's trash. Oh, here, I see. It's shown once a day at noon at Highland Park Theater in one auditorium rented by the producers for $1,000. The limited release was deliberate. Grillo was uninterested in releasing the film domestically until it underwent foreign distribution, but the film needed to fulfill the U.S. release obligation required by Screen Actors Guild for low-budget films. Budget's less than 2.5 mil. The strategy had the side effect of making it, at the time, the lowest-grossing film in history, earned $30 at the box office, from 6 patrons paying $5 each. And he even refunded 2 tickets because the makeup artist saw it with a friend. It's still not the biggest financial loss. It is the lowest opening box office. I don't think there's any box office performance lower than $30. Not for a budget over $1 million. But yeah, if we're talking relative flops, it's not the biggest by far. Worst $5 they ever spent. Disagreed. All 6 of these people are now part of history. Remember that Kevin Spacey movie that only made $600 in its opening weekend, Billionaire Boys Club? True. Here, let's just look at the biggest flops. Waterworld's notorious. Here, let's do the estimated loss. Wait, estimated loss for one of these movies was $88. The production budget was $46 and it made $8. So how did they lose 88? They never even saw 88. Oh, millions! Oh my god, millions. I thought this was just dealing with low-budget films. I should have looked up 47 Ronins here. That's the Keanu Reeves movie. Oh, Jesus Christ. I was like, oh, so they're counting indie movies. Never heard of the Baron of Munchausen, whatever that is. Oh, Mars Needs Moms. I remember this. I never saw it, but I remember the trailers. Mars Needs Moms.
Eat that. You're not gonna make me eat it now, are you? That's no good thing to say.
This looks
I'm
great.
sorry. Mom? Let her go!
I need to watch this. I still need to watch Norm of the North as well.
I'm in a spaceship. This is so cool!
Use the Polar Express technology. Okay.
I'm just messing with you. Welcome to Mars. My name is Gribble. This is Two Cat. What's your handle?
Milo.
How about I call you my bro? Check it.
Wow.
What is going on?
Damn, this is killing it.
Mars need.
That's pretty hype. I've heard of Tomorrowland. I saw this movie in theater opening day. I went to a church. There was a church near my old apartment that would play movies. They'd have like one movie per auditorium. They had like 4 auditoriums, but you could see the movie for like $3. So I saw this opening day with Andrew, and this is still his most hated movie of all time, I believe. He was so offended at how trash this movie was. I'd never seen him so upset. I even think he went home and made a whole video about it on his channel. Ooh, Turning Red flopped. Twitter was in a frenzy about this movie. $175 million budget and only a $20 million box office? Holy shit. Whoa, that can't be right. What? No. Oh, it was straight to Disney Plus. Oh. Okay. That makes a little bit more sense. This is probably what scared them off of doing more straight to streaming videos or movies. Like theatrical release plus streaming. This right here probably scared them. Good lord. This looks awful. Let me see. That's Matt Damon? No. Take me. Yeah. This looks cool. I'm just watching an AMV. Damn, why did this flop? That actually looks good. I'd probably like that now. In the year 3028, holy Jesus Christ. A masterpiece that destroyed Fox Animation Studios. Rough. This is a new video too. He also must have been going through the biggest flops of all time and caught Titan AE caught his attention. Mulan, yeah, that deserved the flop. This movie was so bad. $200 million budget with 70 million box office. That sounds beautiful. That's great news. This movie was terrible. Man, Disney's got some of the most prolific flops on here. Pluto Nash! Let's go! I used to like this movie as a kid. Ah! A $100 million budget and a modest $7 million box office. Wow. Man, we don't have any Pluto Nash fans out here?
Eddie Murphy.
Oh, this is so early 2000s.
Pluto Nash.
It is a pleasure to meet me.
The battle between Pretty Evil
Let's get it right this time.
and Pretty
Pluto
Evil.
Nash was better than John Carter.
Look at me.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, we were thinking a little more. You married twins, huh?
No, they're not twins. I met the perfect woman and then I had a clone.
Which one's which?
Damn, I don't remember this movie at all.
The Adventures of Pluto Nash.
Why don't you take these Hillarys? We appreciate you helping us out.
I can't believe that movie flopped. That's a pretty big flop too. 100 mil to 7 mil. Yuck. Final Fantasy. What? What is this? The Spirits Within. You're telling me they made a $137 million Final Fantasy movie and I'd never heard of it? What the fuck? No, I never even heard of this.
Always the same.
So is it just an original story? Must be. I don't recognize any of this. Yeah.
Don't see how any living thing could survive out here.
Yeah.
Came to uncover an ancient truth.
I feel like Final Fantasy's strong point isn't going to be like a self-contained original movie for Columbia Pictures. So I imagine that probably just wasn't very good. Oh, yucky. That's a rough one for DC. Wonder Woman 1984. Yeah. That didn't pop off. That movie was awful. A Wrinkle in Time. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. This is that fucking movie where they say the name Charles Wallace 10,000 times. I forgot all about this one. Oh, this was miserable. I know it's for kids, but Christ, it was bad. Jesus. I bet Artemis Fowl is going to be on here pretty soon. Terminator Dark Fate. Not surprising. Matrix Resurrections. Yep. Fucking yep. Not as big of a flop as I would have expected, but wow. What a remarkable disservice to the entire fucking franchise. Sucked ass. It was so dog anus. Like, I couldn't believe it. I don't know how you fuck it up this bad. There wasn't a single thing in this movie that worked. It was like it was directed to be awful, like on purpose. And I saw that cope from a lot of people like, well, actually, the Wachowskis have outdone themselves yet again because they meant for this movie to be terrible. And thus, they succeeded and created a masterpiece. It's like, well, you made an awful movie on purpose. You fucking wasted my time then. Like, maliciously. Like, in the very first couple of scenes, they do this thing where it's, like, really meta. Where they're talking to Warner Bros. They're like, Warner Bros. Needs more bullet time. They need more action. They need more green binary. We need action, bullet time, because we just gotta pump it out. Don't care if it's good, just pump it out. Lickety-split. And it's supposed to be, like, really meta. And that's exactly what they did. They just made nothing but awful bullet time, horrible storytelling, no message, and everything falling to shit. And some people acted like it was so genius for them to, like, include that scene where they're openly mocking how little effort they put into it. No, this one hurts. Moonfall flopped. We may never get a sequel. Oh, casual $100 million loss. Oh, God, why is there no justice in the world? This should have been on the top 50 highest grossing films of all time. Worst comes to worst, I'll make a petition. Those usually work. We need a sequel. They set themselves up for an entire Moonfall universe. Like, we have to realize that potential. We can't just let this masterpiece slip away. Is Moonfall your Morbius? I mean, that doesn't even encapsulate my feelings. Moonfall is the perfect bad movie. Every possible thing that could be horrible about a movie is present in Moonfall, but done like it takes a savant to do what Roland Emmerich did here. He took everything that makes a movie good and shit on it. but with like the most beautiful shit I've ever seen. It's like 2.5 hours and it feels like 20 minutes. You go on like the most amazing ride through delusion. I just don't know how to explain it. It's such a beautifully awful movie. Oh, I used to love this movie. You're telling me Stealth flopped? Wait, this movie was so cool. I watched this shit like 8 times. And there's that scene when Jessica Biel's like underneath a waterfall in a bikini, and I was still pretty young at the time. I was like, whoa, them honkers though. Like this movie's about like a secret super special jet plane that gains sentience. And I remember there's a scene where the main character, Josh Lucas, he's like looking at I forgot what they call it. What's his name in this movie? Eddie. He's looking at Eddie out the window and he's like, Eddie, what are you listening to over there? And he's playing like really good music, like rock music. And he's like, I'm listening to my favorite song. He's like, how many songs did you download? And he says, all of them. And then he blasts off listening to a song that's called Bulletproof Skin by a band called Institute, which isn't really a big band or song. It was so cool. I loved it when I was young. Oh, they even have a Bulletproof Skin AMV for Stealth. Let's go. I don't know this one. We're getting into some obscure ones. Treasure Planet, this is actually tragic. I still think this is probably one of the best animated kids movies Disney's ever done. Like, it's so good. This one is a very sad story. It should have been one of their biggest grossing ever. Why did it do bad? You talking about Treasure Planet? There's actually a really great video on why Treasure Planet failed and why it shouldn't have. Failed because audiences didn't want 2D movies at that point. I don't remember all the factors that went into it. I really don't know. But this movie is an absolute masterpiece. Oh, this is the newest Fantastic Four. I never saw this, but I heard it was a beautiful stinker. Is this like a fun bad movie or just really not worth watching at all? The entire chat is just saying it's boring and just bad. 47 Ronin's sad because it's Keanu Reeves in this movie, from what I understand, was actually good. But I still haven't seen it. It's a cool concept. Like, I think it's a really interesting idea for a movie. I just haven't seen it myself yet. Chaos. Oh! Tiana was watching this and she said she fucking hated it. Yeah, this movie, the Tom Holland one, what a beautiful flop. $100 million budget, $27 million box office. I think it was only streaming. But yeah, this is that movie where men have like stink on them. And there's like no women on their planet. So then there's like a woman that gets introduced to the planet and she has no stink or something. Like, what is it? I forgot. Like, they can hear thoughts, like their thoughts surround them. Men have transparent thoughts. It's their thoughts. Horrible way to explain it. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really get it. I didn't watch all of it. Neither did she. Turned it off. It was just bad. It was just really bad. Monkey Bone's a good movie. It's Brendan Fraser. It shouldn't have flopped. Tragic. Wow, that's a colossal flop. $75 million budget with a $7 million box office in 2002. Or 2001. That's prime movie-going era. I know Monkey Bone's credited a lot for Brendan Fraser's downfall in Hollywood, but I just don't agree. This was a good movie. Did I see this movie? Does anyone know? Did I make a moist meter on this? I don't know if I saw this. I have to look this up. I genuinely don't know if I saw this, but I feel like it's something I absolutely would have seen. Oh, that is such a dangerous search. Holy fuck, I did not think that through. I have so many porn deepfakes. Oh my god, that was close. I'll do Xander Cage. Wow. Yikes. We're fine, though. No. It looks like I never saw this movie. This is kind of cool. It's a 2002 action thriller directed by that name, under the pseudonym of Chaos. Oh, I need to watch it. Voice crack. I need to watch a trailer.
A former FBI agent named Jeremiah X.
Sworn enemy.
Antonio Banderas at his best.
The option. This woman's single.
Can you believe this is what trailers used to look like? This was normal.
I need you to find her.
Of course you do.
Wow. Look how far we've come.
My
We're evolving.
Tell him why you look so sad. I'm told it was because you just got beat up by a girl.
This kind of just looks boring bad, but maybe I'll watch it at some point. The Mummy. Yeah, this movie was terrible. This is the Tom Cruise movie. I wanted it to be good. It stood no chance of being good. I knew this was dead on arrival from the second they accidentally released the trailer with no music or sound effects, and it's just Tom Cruise going, "Ah!" in a plane. They did that. I forget that 2017's 5 years ago, so a lot of people just don't remember. Yeah. The first trailer that came out for this movie, they forgot to put all of the sound effects. So it's just Tom Cruise in a plane going, "Ah!"
What the hell?
Pretty hype. When did he start screaming? Oh, there we go. This is what trailers could be. Should be, even. Man, Tom Cruise really puts it all on the line for this one. And this was the first little bit of The Mummy we saw. So you could see why my expectations were so high going into it. I saw this in theaters with Andrew. This is another really enjoyable bad movie. I can't believe it made $150 million in the box office. I think they're lying. I genuinely, there's no part of me, there's no universe. Like there's not a single dimension where this movie made more than $50. Again, it was just me and Andrew in the theater watching this, and no one has ever talked about it since. It is a really fun bad movie. I saw this in theaters when I was a kid. Hated it. Absolutely hated it. Glad to see it flop. This was terrible. This had Tim Allen doing his absolute best to try and stay awake on screen and failing. Even when I was a kid, I was like, man, this guy sucks. I liked Home Improvement. I loved Tim the Toolman Taylor, but I was like, damn, this guy does not want to be here. It's bad. It's really bad. Let's do like any random Zoom scene. That's not gonna work anymore. We'll do Zoom movie scene.
Just like riding a bike.
The story is he hated being a hero or some shit. I don't remember why his brother didn't age, but Tim Allen's like 80.
Actually, it's Zoom. Zoom looks good.
Nice suit, lizard boy.
Welcome back, Zoom.
Let's play ball.
Goddamn. Yeah, movie's awful. Glad to see it flopped. Do you even realize how lucky you are to be alive right now? To exist at the same time as Concord. You are alive at a time that people will talk about for centuries to come. You get to witness the biggest failure in gaming. Not only the biggest failure in gaming, but undoubtedly one of the biggest failures in all of entertainment. PlayStation just announced that they're already shutting down Concord in 3 days from now. That's the doomsday for all 9 people still inhabiting that barren wasteland. The game didn't even survive 2 full weeks. I probably could have lasted longer on a deserted island with only fucking coconuts to satiate me. This game just barely squeaked over a week of life. And life is a term I'm using very loosely because this game was never alive to begin with. It was dead on arrival. 660 all-time peak, and even right now with this news that it's going to be shutting down, not even those 660 people bothered to flock to it to get like one last ride in there, one little ooh-rah before it sails off into the sunset. I imagine most of those players probably already refunded the game because it was a $40 game that was a watered-down, worse version of all of its free counterparts that it was trying to suckle from the teats of. It was an embarrassing flop that everyone with eyes saw coming from a mile away, except for Sony, it seems. 8 years in development, millions upon millions of dollars in the shitter here, only for the game to exist for barely over a week. A loaf of bread lasts longer than Concord did, and they're pulling the plug on it already. It should have never even released in the first place. This was a complete waste of 8 years of time and money. It is rough. This is a harder flop than my cock under your mother's chin. I do not, and I said this last time, I do not know who this game was ever made for. because the audience it tries to appeal to was never going to switch to this game because it's already $40. You've already lost that battle because all of the other games in that genre are free and better. So it was a surprise to no one that when this game dropped, its player count sucked shit through a crazy straw. Nobody was asking for this. There wasn't a demand for it. There was no one lining up to purchase this. This was something nobody wanted, like a lump of coal for Christmas. It really is not a shocker that this game never breached 700 players. Its peak was 660. That is pathetic. That is laughable. If you go into like Steam dumpster diving, you can just throw a fucking dart at your computer monitor and whatever game it lands on that you've never heard of, like fucking Glorbus's Hemorrhoid Adventure, that probably had more than 660 players at some point. It is hard to find a game that had this little hype around it. Like, playing Concord was like going into an empty Burger King. This whole thing was just sad. And now they're already pulling the plug on it less than 2 weeks after it's been out. I also love the way they start their statement, Concord fans, as if any of those exist. You'd be more likely to find aliens than Concord fans. We've been listening closely to your feedback since the launch of Concord on PlayStation 5 and PC and want to thank everyone who has joined the journey aboard the North Star. You could have just sent all of them a DM. Like, there's not many of them. You could have easily reached them directly. Your support and the passionate community that has grown around the game has meant the world to us. I don't know where that community is, I'm going to be honest. The only passion I see in regards to Concord is people passionately shitting on it and laughing at it. Because it is a spectacle how badly this game flopped. However, while the many qualities of the experience resonated with players, we also recognize that other aspects of the game and our initial launch didn't land the way we'd intended. Therefore, at this time, we have decided to take the game offline beginning September 6, 2024, and explore options including those that will better reach our players. While we determine the best path ahead, Concord sales will cease immediately, and we'll begin to offer a full refund for all gamers who have purchased the game for PS5 or PC. If you purchase the game for PS5 from the PlayStation Store or PlayStation Direct, a refund will be issued back to your original payment method. It is exceptionally rare to see something fail to this degree. Millions upon millions of dollars invested in this project over the course of 8 years with a big team of people working on it. And they get like 30 grand in sales from PC. Relative to what they spent on this project, that $30,000 return is incomprehensibly tiny. They released a wet fart that will be talked about in economics courses, I think, for eons to come. To put that in perspective, that $30,000 they made on PC sales for Concord most likely don't even cover a year's worth of electricity bills for the office building that their employees work out of. I decided to look at a couple of numbers out of curiosity. So Firewalk has roughly 150 employees based on what I can find, and I can't find any information on the building they work out of, but let's just assume that they're working out of a mid-sized office building that's usually used for about 100 employees, and according to these numbers here, a business will spend about $1.44 per square foot on electricity and 30 cents per square foot on natural gas. So an annual cost for a mid-sized office building of 20,000 square feet, which is used for about 100 employees, will come out to $34.8K. This was developed for 8 years, and what they made on PC doesn't even cover 1 year's worth of just electricity and energy costs. Pfft. What a fucking historic blunder. Now, I imagine a lot of the developers at Firewalk work remote, but even still, I imagine they have some kind of headquarters somewhere, and that building would not have even been able to keep the lights on with the $30,000 that this game made. So it never even came close to breaking a profit. It wasn't even in the same universe as the word profit. I can't think of anything else that has ever flopped this hard. This is just crazy. It's already getting the plug pulled after just 10 days. So, yeah, I am beyond surprised because I thought they'd at least ride this as much as they could, like trying to update the game, like desperately trying to get some players to buy into it. Like, I thought this would go at least 6 months, like a full season or something of the game, but it didn't even make it like a full 2 weeks. It blows my mind. Like, I'm not surprised by how poorly it performed. I am surprised it performed this poorly because even like, no matter how bad a AAA game is, people will mindlessly buy it. Except when it comes to Concord. That is how little interest there was in a game like this. So, That's going to be a big lesson for the gaming industry, I think. Or at least it should be. It probably won't. They'll probably make like a Concord 2 in a year or so, because they most likely haven't learned anything valuable from this. But speaking of value, if you want something actually valuable, pick up Godslap. Issue 6 just dropped. That's right, we're moving into the new arc of Godslap, and issue 6 is out right now. Pick up a copy at badegg.co. There's a link in the description. And also, if you're thirsty, Goof Juice is always available, baby. Gamersubs.gg/moist. Link also in the description. Best flavor of any beverage ever. You can sip on some Goof Juice while reading your Godslap and looking as Concord gets taken off of life support. Now, what I do think should happen as a result of this public embarrassment that was Concord, the people that came up with the idea of making a hero shooter that's just the most derivative, generic, formulaic garbage, they are the ones that need to be held responsible the most. Those are the ones that should be fired. But we've seen time and time again that is never the case. When you reach a upper echelon position in an industry, you can only fail upwards. No matter how much money you lose, no matter how many times you stumble, fall, and cost the company greatly, you are always safe and only ever fail positively. Everyone underneath you gets punished. Like we saw this with John Risitiello at Unity. We just actually saw it with Suicide Squad. I just read the other day about how they're laying off a ton of like QA testers, even though it's not like the QA testers were responsible for Suicide Squad being a dog shit game. The people that made it a live service game and all of the other terrible ideas, it's their fault, not the QA testers that were just making sure the game fucking functioned, yet they're the ones that are being punished. They're the ones that are getting spanked for it. It makes no sense. So in Concord's case, it shouldn't be just like the people that coded the game, like they had a project they were assigned to work on, they did their job. The game runs, like the game is functional, it's a serviceable game, it's just not a good game, and it's a game nobody wanted. That is the problem of the people that brainstormed this, greenlight this, and then made the team work on it. So whoever came up with those ideas and pushed all this forward, those are the ones that are responsible for the tragedy that is Concord. It should have never existed in the first place. But yeah, anyway, RIP to Concord. That's about it. See ya.